To welcome you all in the Netherlands, and more precisely in The Hague, the political heart of the Netherlands. Unlike in many other countries, as you may know, the government's residence in the Netherlands is not based in our capital city Amsterdam, but in The Hague. Explanation of this exact reason why would take too much time on this occasion. But to put it shortly, after the fall of Napoleon in 1815, our King William I chose The Hague, which at that time was much royal-minded than the Republican Amsterdam, as his residence. And in accordance with the custom of the royal court, there where the kings go, his ministers and officials follow. Hence, The Hague became the political capital of the Netherlands, with Amsterdam remaining the economic center of the country. Practically speaking, there is a small unintended benefit of this. The distance between The Hague and Brussels is smaller than between Amsterdam and Brussels. And as you know, the Netherlands has always felt closely connected with Europe and the European integration, not in the least due its significant dependence on trade with other EU countries. So, Europe is very important to us, and therefore is the ELO organization very important for us as well. And we are happy that today we are here together to orientate us what the European Union will bring the coming half year shared by the Netherlands. And Mr. President, we will support you where we can, because the still growing role of Brussels in agriculture and natural policies requires Europe private landowners to be connected. Since the last Dutch presidency in 2004, much has changed. Not only has the number of the EU member states almost doubled from 15 till 28, the internal diversity of the Union has increased tremendously as well. Moreover, and this is equally relevant for this audience, during this 12 years period, major shifts have taken place in the working field relevant to the Dutch Federation for Private Land Ownership. What was at that time the Ministry of Agriculture, Nature Management and Fishery has abolished, and its tasks were brought under the Ministry of Economic Affairs. Simultaneously to this development, a far-reaching decentralization process of nature legislation was carried out, whereby the role of the ministry became limited to drafting the relevant legislative framework, under which 12 Dutch provinces carry out full responsibility for detailed policy setting and implementation of this legislative framework. Next speakers, Mr. Hogeveen from the Dutch Ministry of Economic Affairs and Mr. Van Dijk from the Association of Provincial Authorities in the Netherlands will undoubtedly address this matter in more detail. I mentioned it here because this decentralization process had a direct effect on the working field and functioning of our organization. While in the past the FPG had merely one clear defined government body to interact with, the Ministry of Agriculture, Nature Management and Fishery, this has increased to 12 different provinces. The great advantage of this decentralization is, of course, the fact that distinct features and preferences of each region can be taken into account in the preparation of new policies. The downside is, however, that effective representing of the interest of our members is now needed in all 12 provinces, requiring additional capacity on the side of our organization, and this has resulted in the FPG strengthening the capacity of its provincial branches over the past years. The FPG, our organization, currently has approximately 1,600 members, representing a total of 200,000 hectares privately owned property. Although the number of members is relatively small, the share of privately owned forest, nature areas and country estates represented by the FPG is significant on the Dutch scale. The FPG is also a very diverse organization. Our members range from large institutional investors and owners of country and or historical estates to recreation entrepreneurs, large-scale farmers producing for the world market, to farmers who have converted their farmland into nature areas. And within all this diversity of interest and concerns, there is one significant factor that binds all the members, and that is land. The possession and use of land in a small, densely populated country like the Netherlands is often very complex, not least because of the high land pressure due to the continuous need for more space for construction, for new infrastructure, industrial parks, residential areas, new nature and recreation areas. The result is that land is very expensive in the Netherlands, and every square centimeter of soil is one way or another subject to regulation. Changes in land use are never allowed without additional authorization from the authorities, and in such a climate, rights of private landowners and their ability to dispose of their ownership is under pressure. As you know, in legal terms, ownership is the most comprehensive right that a person can have on a matter. However, when it comes to ownership of land, and in particular land in a highly populated country like the Netherlands, the boundaries of the ownership become subject of discussion. And this reflected in many current issues the FPG faces. One of them is the ongoing debate about the newly proposed Nature Conservation Act. This act intends to replace and integrate 3 current acts concerning nature conservation, forest management and hunting. While the objective of the act is a more uniform, integrated and simplified system of nature conservation in the Netherlands, in practice the opposite seems to be taking place. In our opinion, it results in more rules, a very sectoral approach and less freedom for necessary management actions. And the position of the FPG is crystal clear. The new act may not impose any further restriction on property rights, and further involvement from the authorities in the way owners manage their property is therefore unacceptable. That said, due to our active lobby, we managed to maintain the objective of wise use and sustainable hunting in Nature 2000 areas in this act. And the FPG believes that the government shouldn't be sitting on the share of the owners, not when it comes to the Dutch Nature Conservation Act, and not when it comes to the Dutch implementation of the EU Birds and Habitat directives. There is a serious need for greater flexibility at the local level in order to ensure correct implementation and cooperation from landowners. The members of the FPG are in favor of an EU-wide network of nature protection areas with a level playing field. We believe, however, that this can only be achieved when environmental and economic interests involved are in balance with each other. And one doesn't do that by placing fences around these areas trying to minimize human influences as much as possible, but by engaging in a dialogue with the owners, managers and users of these areas and offering them a suitable reward for their achievements in realizing Nature 2000 goals. Hence, becoming a part of Nature 2000 areas should be made attractive. For long, this approach was a tiny little bit forgotten in the Netherlands. Fortunately, we see progress and we believe and have full trust that with 2 excellent and politically involved experts like Mr. Hogeveen and Mr. Van Dijk, this will change soon. Similar issues arise in current discussions about a new tenancy law. The most important question here is how much effective say does the owner have in the exploitation of his land? Is the landowner allowed to make an agreement with his tenants, or should he be subject to a strict and rather detailed legal framework on the conditions of rent? And also here, the position of the FPG is clear. Parties to a rental agreement must have the freedom, the right, to come to a mutual acceptable agreement on the conditions of their contractual relationship with a minimum interference by state authorities. And to sum up, the FPG has always advocated full and effective protection of private property rights, as well as wise use of land and its sustainable management, and it will continue to do so. The FPG trusts that private landowners are crucial for right management and sustainable development of rural areas, and that by producing and providing job opportunities, they play a vital role in the rural economy. And let us also not forget, ladies and gentlemen, that the European countryside is an essential part of its physical appearance and its identity. More than 91% of the EU territory is rural home to more than 56% of the EU population. These essential rural areas contribute to a sound and vital Europe. The agriculture sector is an important user and manager of the European countryside as well. And for that reason only, it plays a crucial role in search of a suitable solution for great contemporary challenges Europe currently faces. And I don't mean the dramatic situation in Syria and the ongoing refugees crisis. These are undoubtedly serious problems requiring firm and quick solutions. However, I was referring to another, in my view, not less significant challenge the European agriculture faces. How can it produce sufficient and safe food for the increasing world population, and how can it contribute to solving climate and environmental issues such as production of renewable energy sources? The sector is also expected to carry out important public tasks, including nature management and conservation of the countryside, as well ensuring the sustainable use of natural resources such as water, air and soil. And ladies and gentlemen, healthy soils are profitable soils. The degeneration of soil is a serious problem. For too long we have neglected the soil, believing that with a little help of some additional fertilizer we were able to keep the soil healthy. But we were wrong, and we know it. We fully realize that preventing the soil degeneration is necessary for maintaining its productivity. This is clearly shown by experiences in the Dutch Flevopolder. The Dutch Flevopolder is man-made land gained from the sea in the 1960s. In this area, many fields nowadays being plowed at least 1 meter deep to improve profit. A clear consequence of previous soil neglectance, overexploitation and insufficient crop rotation. And the FPG therefore favors the so-called sound-bound agriculture and sustainable agricultural soil management. That soil-bound agriculture stands for farming practices where crops production and livestock farming is linked to and limited to the carrying capacity of the land concerned with limited external input. Ladies and gentlemen, let me please conclude. The protection of land ownership can't be realized without confidence in private landowners. They are those who have been demonstrating for decades, sometimes even centuries, their deep responsibility for our food production, landscape management and the biodiversity. Experience shows that the best deals are made at the kitchen table and not decided in The Hague or in Brussels. And that the ultimate objective for most landowners is not a maximum profit at all costs, but the sustainable preservation of their property so that it can be passed to the next generations. And all the more reason to have confidence in private landowners, to trust private landowners, and all reasons for conscious restraint in too much regulation of private ownership by government. I wish you an inspiring meeting and thank you for your attention.
Well, really thank you very much for your speech. I would like to ask you to give us your speech because I would like to use the conclusion of your speech, put it in the minutes, if you agree about this. Because it's very interesting and in fact you make a summary of ELO. So thank you for doing the job. I think we can have a coffee break. So after this, Hans Hugeven, I hope it's a well pronunciation. Thank you for being here today. We are very happy. You are Director General from Agro and the Ministry of Economic Affairs, and this means that you are speaking about agriculture. I saw that in the past you were between 2004 and 2006